Hello, my name is David Poon, a Canadian, a stand-up comedian, a medical resident in family medicine and public health, and an addict. I've been addicted to Pokémon GO. It's the worst addiction to affect Asian men since opium. Niantic, thank you very much for making Pokémon GO. You've gotten mothers, wives, and girlfriends the world over complete joy knowing that their boys are out at 3 AM not drinking, gambling, or smoking, but rather trying to catch Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle. And yes, I realize that mothers, wives, and girlfriends also play Pokemon. I'm just trying to explain the phenomenon to my mom, and also explain to her why I'm not married yet. On July 6th, Niantic released Pokemon GO in North America, gaining more users than Twitter in a matter of days. Pokemon GO was massively popular. It exceeded all expectations at launch, briefly increasing Nintendo's stock by $7 billion, valued more than Sony, that makes the rival PlayStation. With your friends, you go out and socialize, catching Pokemon, driving around the city and countryside, all to collect the 145 Pokemon in the world. Now, this is a time-consuming and frankly ridiculous process that requires people to have no social life, be bad at relationships, and not care about their job. Last week, I caught 145 Pokemon, every single one in the world. I'm probably the first Canadian to do so.
Alright, Pokemon. Let's evolve for Charizard. And here we go. One of the last three. Rapidash, let's evolve this. Oh, I accidentally transferred it. I didn't mean to do that. And finally, the Golem that I never caught. Let's evolve our Graveler. So guys, this is my final Pokemon. This is it. This is the 145th Pokemon, the last one I need to catch in the world. Yeah. I'm gonna run down epically, make sure I look good. Gotta catch them all! Do I look good?
You can clearly see that Pokemon has been a problem for me. Because the game requires it to be open all the time on your phone, I've had to have my iPhone out all the time, my headphones in constantly, and bought not one, not two, not three, but 4 power packs to make sure that my phone had power the entire time I was awake. On the plus side, and I swear to you this is true, I won a Pokemon photo contest at the Denny's restaurant, who, and I quote, called me very popular among food and Pokemon lovers. This is a very specific example of intersectionality, and I am their king. Despite everything I love about Pokemon GO, there are multiple problems, some reasonable, and some, in my opinion, are maddening flustercluck. Hashtag literally. Since the game's launch, there were significant issues with the game, from constant crashes, GPS location errors, and in many cases, the game not starting at all. Now, the game couldn't locate you properly, causing you to jump around the map erratically. And it wouldn't calculate the distance you walk properly. Now, in a game that rewards you to walk, if it doesn't calculate how much you walk properly, you're going to end up with this. You're already aware of the sensational stories. There's one about players who were lured to a thief and then were robbed. There are players that find dead bodies. This one is about the game being banned from the Pentagon as a security risk. And there are multiple reports of motor vehicle accidents. Now, I myself, on the day I finally caught the 145th Pokemon, saw a car hit a bicyclist, and I was the closest one there. I would have stayed and helped, but there was a Charmander around the corner, and I needed it to finish my Pokedex. But don't worry, I waited until the ambulance came. The thing is, I'm sure you're not surprised by all of this. The reason is because I've actually read your absurdly lengthy and all-encompassing Terms of Service. Now, for those of you who aren't a nerd, the Terms of Service are a document that details exactly how a user is allowed to use a certain product or service, and in particular, their legal rights and what you are allowed to do. Now, in theory, this is to ensure a consistent experience for all the users who abide by these rules, ranging from asking those who type in their essays on Microsoft Word not to use Microsoft Word to hack email passwords, to, and this is true, agreeing that you won't use iTunes to pretend to be Blink-182 getting an underage girl's phone number. Now, Niantic, Microsoft's aforementioned Terms of Service is about 3,040 words long, and that is a worldwide standard in business productivity. Facebook, a company so large that even my mom uses it, has a Terms of Service that is 3,492 words long. Twitter, the preferred voice piece of celebrities, everybody's, American presidents, and American presidential nightmares, has a 3,723 word Terms of Service. Now, I believe you predicted some of these foreseeable issues, as Pokemon GO's terms of service are a whopping 6,697 words long. Now, this isn't about cybersecurity, this isn't about international trade, this is you being the kid who pulls out a rulebook during recess whenever we play dodgeball. In fact, this open letter is only about 4,000 words, and that's pretty remarkable given that I am a rambling madman. While you might laugh at my obsession with word counts, this behemoth of a terms of service is reflective of Niantic's almost adversarial relationship with your devoted fanbase. Now, Niantic has done a number of good things. It taught many of us that the plural of Pokemon isn't Pokemans, and it taught the Americans that the metric system existed. But the terms of service are so alarming that both Snoops and the consumerist have suggested that the wording is meant to make it harder for an individual to make claims against Niantic. Their example being, if there's large data breach, such as you lost all of our passwords, each plaintiff would have to bring a case forward against you individually, not as a group that is typically standard. This would leave a lot of people vulnerable, as we likely don't have the time, money, and resources to bring legal action to you. There was a 30-day clause that we could opt out of the very anti-consumer writing, but I suspect most of us had no idea that this existed. Now, I like to think I'm somewhat well-versed in Pokemon GO, and I didn't realize that this 30-day clause existed until today, my 35th day playing. The terms of service also establish what constitutes cheating in Pokemon GO, and ultimately what infractions can lead to our account being banned. Now, due to its length, it has become an all-encompassing manifesto that labels a startling number of us as violating the terms of service. Niantic, this is a problem. During Pokemon GO's problematic launch, by far the worst offender was the broken tracking system. The fundamental ability to accurately find the Pokemon a player wanted to catch, because it actually didn't work. This became known as the 3-step glitch due to the image of 3 footsteps under each Pokemon you were tracking, and not due to the drunk guy you once saw at a cowboy bar. I'm not a developer, but I'm fairly certain that if your core mechanic is number 1, find Pokemon, and number 2, catch Pokemon, you should be aiming for a little higher than achieving 50% of your goals. So, just because the game was fundamentally broken, but people wanted to still play, online tracking tools suddenly burst in popularity. There are websites and phone apps which would reveal the location of Pokemon near the player with complete accuracy. So we could grab our friends, we could run a kilometer, and we could catch a Pikachu. Third-party resources like the popular Pokevision address a desperate need in the Pokemon GO community: how to reliably track a Pokemon. By one account, when there are 80 to 90 million players, 50 million of us were using sites like Pokevision. Now, while most video game companies allow third-party resources such as modifications, game guides, and helper tools to improve games, Niantic chose to fight us. Creators of programs like Pokevision were asked to take down their products or be threatened with legal action, as these programs were in violation of the Pokemon GO terms of service. The creator of Pokevision, Marcus Liu, eloquently summarized the debate with one tweet: "You don't invent Marco Polo, get 80 million players to join, then remove the polo part and expect people to keep playing." To me, it's the equivalent of buying a car with a broken GPS and then getting your driver's license taken away because you used a paper map. If your core competency is flawed, is the best response pushing away those who attempt to repair it. Apps like Pokevision actively increase the number of users playing consistently. This isn't like the Russian Olympic doping scandal, where the advantage of one group inherently disadvantages another. Tracking apps actively and freely allowed anyone without restriction the same help. Want to use the broken official methods? Fine. Your enjoyment of the game isn't hampered by these third-party apps. Unlike the Olympics, Pokemon GO doesn't have a finite number of gold, silver, bronze medals. Duplicate Pokemon spawn in the same location, so anyone in the area, either by chance or by intention, still reap the same benefit. Now this is a video of a Vaporeon spawning in Central Park.
Vaporeon that spawned right there, so everyone's running.
There's a what there?
It's like a free Justin Bieber autograph session at a cheerleader competition, only with an unlimited number of Justin Biebers and mostly 30-year-old Asian men. Full disclosure, I'm 30 years old and I used to be a cheerleader. Niantic has argued that these tracking apps are an additional strain on the servers, which is a valid point. However, looking at the ratings of Pokemon GO before and after the trackers were removed show a significant drop in the Google Play App Store from almost a universal 4 to 5 out of 5 to 1 to 2 out of 5. It's like the restaurant being pissed you fill up on bread when your food didn't show up after 2 hours. Yes, You're using extra resources, but you wouldn't have to if their service wasn't garbage. Things are even harder if you're one of the millions of people who live in a rural area. If you live in a big city like Toronto or Tokyo, likely to run into some common Pokemon if you wander around. But if you live on a farm an hour away from population density, accurate tracking becomes fundamentally important. Driving an hour only to spend another 2 wandering aimlessly is more likely to turn people off your game than to incentivize them to spend more money on it. And I completely agree. If I wanted to spend my nights wandering aimlessly, I would have tried opium. We're taught in medical school that the biggest reason doctors are sued is when we don't communicate well with our patients. Whether or not we actually made a medical error is irrelevant. Patients are more tolerant of our failings when we keep an honest conversation. The problem with Niantic has been, since the very beginning, communication has been slow or non-existent. Niantic's communication has comprised of vocally opposing trackers, cease and desists, banning players, and a seeming refusal to engage the community. On your official Facebook page during the 3-step glitch fiasco, your post could be as long as 6 days apart, and did not indicate that the 3-step glitch existed, let alone that it was being addressed. Instead, the next app update reflected what crucial issue had actually been solved: minor text fixes. You removed the steps altogether, making an already inaccurate process more infuriating. When you have a community that is so dedicated to your broken product, it finds ways to fix its glaring problems. Your immediate response should not be punitive, and at the very least, it should not be no response. And Niantic, even you understand you're pissing off your player base because you were giving out refunds after the 3-step glitch problems. Now, preventing cheating is an understandable goal. Cheating can destroy athletic careers, it can destroy marriages. And to be fair, there are a number of modifications or hacks I don't agree with. There are bots such as Necrobot that walk your character, obtain Pokemon, and increase your game's level automatically, taking away essentially all the game. Websites like Pokesnipers allow users to instantly teleport in-game anywhere in the world there is a rare Pokemon. In both cases, people can stay home and have their phone pretend to be outside catching Pokemon. These tools are what's known as GPS spoofing, having the game think you're walking or moving in a location that you're not, taking away the socialization and tracking that makes Pokemon GO so special. I know you are aware of this, and those who GPS spoof are already given temporary bans, and as of last week I understand that you're now doing permanent bans. But if we're using Pokevision merely as tools to fix what's broken about Pokemon GO, we're still socializing, we're still exploring, and we're still having the adventure you want us to have, I'm not convinced that there is a reason to include all those who modify the game with the same repercussions. Do you honestly expect us to wander, pay you money, fall into lakes, get into car accidents, ignore car accidents, and find dead bodies while draining our smartphone batteries for a game that punishes players for trying to fix it? Niantic, why not hire the programmers of products like Pokevision to help improve your game? Because they are technically hackers? Well, there's precedent for that. You know who else hires hackers to improve their work? The Pentagon. You're telling me the department in charge of protecting the entire United States of America are more comfortable with hiring hackers than a game that gives millennials yet another excuse never to get married? By the way, thanks a lot for that. Me solely mentioning Pokesnipers and Necrobot, I understand it's a violation of your terms of service, and I understand that me just mentioning them and not advocating for their use could get me banned. There is a group though that I am advocating for, a group of people so universally supported I cannot believe they're dragged into this. Sick children. You know who likes Pokemon? Children. You know who can't go outside and play Pokemon GO? Sick children. When the game first came out, players all over the world were paying Niantic for something called lures, which can be placed near a children's hospital and attract Pokemon, allowing them to catch them while they're in bed. Now, I realize I said lure, attract children, and bed in the same sentence, but I mean it sincerely that it had the best intentions. Soon after, children's hospitals around the world, from Toronto to Melbourne, were asking players not to drop lures because it became a traffic and public health safety nightmare. Not to mention, if the lure was just quite far enough, quote, those confined to beds or wards couldn't reach them and became unhappy. Guys, when I went to medical school, we're taught don't make sick children unhappy. It's like the #1 thing you learn, followed by don't drop babies and don't be a pretentious asshole. There is a solution though. Software such as Pokémon GO++ can allow a joystick to be added to the game, allowing these patients to enjoy themselves a little bit better. Talk about Pokemon with their friends, maybe forget the fact that they're in a children's hospital. Being trained both medically and as a nerd, I would have spearheaded the initiative to bring Pokémon GO++ to the children's hospital. except for the fact that this technology requires GPS spoofing. That means under Niantic's terms of service, sick kids and people with physical disabilities who would use such a technology would be considered cheating and subject to ban. Don't forget the number one thing! Don't make sick children unhappy! Modifying game interfaces is well known within the gaming community. Now, I realize I say this from an ableist perspective, but disabled gamers are a huge community and have shown interest in such an interface. This is a story from PlayStation a few years ago.
Nothing, not even his movement disorder, could keep him away from gaming. He contacted the folks at Sony and alerted them of his concerns. The ultimate gift arrived at Burns' front door.
And inside was this controller that is now modified especially for me.
Pokémon GO made Nintendo briefly worth more than Sony, yet Niantic has shown to be less progressive than the same company that built the Betamax. If a large company can accommodate players with custom physical hardware, why exactly is fan-made, easily accessible free software such a problem in the terms of service? Niantic is losing potential profits by penalizing fans of the game. The health benefits don't stop there, as there have been numerous reports about how the socializing aspect of Pokémon GO has helped people improve their mental health, such as depression and anxiety. These are sometimes isolated and vulnerable people who have been helped. If the terms of service were altered slightly more, Niantic can help many more people. It's also had a positive effect on physical health. Roberto Vasquez, the first Canadian to catch all 142 Pokemon, and guy I wish I beat to catching all 142 Pokemon, allegedly lost 25 pounds playing Pokemon GO. And since we're on the topic of cheating, Roberto Vasquez, interestingly, has the Asian-exclusive Pokemon shadow on his Pokedex, even though he said to news report agencies that he's actually never been to Asia. 4 of the Pokemon in the game are exclusive to separate continents. Tauros to North America, Mr. Mime to Europe, Kangaskhan to Australia, and Farfetch'd to Asia. One can only assume that you decided this exclusivity based on the ridiculous of stereotypical focus groups. Let's put the buffalo in the place where Native Americans can hunt them. The mime, in France, of course. The kangaroos, where the kangaroos are from. Why don't we put the Pokemon that looks like duck with a leek in the country that serves Peking duck with a leek garnish? Roberto says that he asked his Asian friend to catch one for him, but sharing your account is considered cheating in Pokemon GO. And to be clear, the only time you should call your Asian friend is when you're replacing the lyrics to Blink-182's What's My Age Again with Where's My Asian Friend?
Where's my Asian friend? Where's my Asian friend?
Nick Johnson, the first American to catch all 142 available Pokemon in North America, got sponsorship from the Expedia travel company and the Marriott hotel chain to fly him to 3 different continents to catch the last 3, allowing him to have all 145. His competitor, Peter Joey Pham, an American with arguably too much disposable income, purchased plane tickets to Australia, Asia, and Europe in a whirlwind, worldwide weekend hunt to be the first, but after being hit by a car in Sydney, he stopped and probably asked himself, man, how on earth is opium safer for Asian guys than Pokemon GO? This illustrates a sad reality for those who love Pokemon, but also don't have an extra $10,000 in the bank account or freaking sponsorship from Expedia. Most of us simply won't be able to play the game at that level. But there are workarounds that are not GPS spoof and pretend to be in Hong Kong when you're not. Now, let me give you a hypothetical example. What if I, hypothetically, were Asian? And in this hypothetical example, I have an aunt who lives in, say, the hypothetical country of Malaysia. Now, if I hypothetically give my Aunt Lillian my Pokemon GO account login information, Aunt Lillian could hypothetically catch the Asian exclusive Pokemon for me, and all it would cost me is the time to email her the photos I told her I'd email her 3 years ago. Sorry, I got caught up in this video and I'm late still. The reason I'm saying this in the abstract is technically the hypothetical person would be breaking the terms of service and therefore subject to a ban. However, it is not breaking the spirit of the game by socializing with people you care about. Trading, a core function in every one of the Pokemon games, does not exist in Pokemon GO. Although interestingly, they do reference trading in the terms of service. Irrespective of that, as of now, assumingly millions of players will only ever see a duck with a leek at a Chinese restaurant and not on their Pokedex. Mods, communities, and websites devoted to improving and changing a game to meet the needs of its users can be a wonderful thing. Cease and desist makes sense when you're guarding intellectual property, or if it's costing you money. But when seemingly a vast number of your players are willing to spend money as long as they are having fun. Is it so much to allow us a tracker? Are the people who want to make friends overseas or cannot walk or are too sick to play with their schoolmates the same people you want to label as cheaters and ban them from enjoying something that you created? Economically disadvantaged gamers, people with disabilities, and sick children are hardly appropriate to be the punchline of a joke, let alone the demographic you are further marginalizing. So you might be wondering, then why? David, why are you advocating for Pokemon GO to be better? Firstly, I'm playing because everyone has a vice and I still haven't touched opium, so let me have this. Secondly, Niantic, I love Pokemon, and I think what you've created is remarkable. As I collected every Pokemon in the world, I saw people make friends, go on dates, overcome crippling mental health issues, and exercise. Think about that. To get people in North America to overcome anxiety and lose weight is something no doctor, not Phil, not Oz, has been able to accomplish nearly as well as you guys have. Now let's continue that good, because in my heart, as a gamer, as a doctor, as a person, I believe that you can do more. The fact is, Pokemon GO has changed the world's social landscape, and you're just beginning your business. I understand that. If you want to charge money to allow hospitalized children to play, I am sure millions will. But there has to be a happy medium between stopping cheaters and asphyxiating your community. As it stands, the terms of service are too inclusive, grouping both together. It penalizes a great number of people, essentially half your user base, and if this is not corrected, I guarantee each one of us will leave, just like every useless Pidgey you had us grind up and turn into Pidgey candy. While I don't admit to any wrongdoing on my part, I understand that this video might show you enough that you plan on banning my account anyway. That's fine, because ultimately I'll find something else to do. Maybe I'll go collect donations of Pokemon cartridges and Game Boys to bring sick kids because they can't play Pokemon GO. At least I, unlike some others, have the choice and the ability to play your game. And to be honest, the way you're treating your user base, I suspect many of us will just eventually stop playing. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the game.